How have people been chatting to you? Are they thinking that their work is all going to be stolen and hoovered up? How do you hedge against AI?
Where AI is right now feels like the craziest that it could possibly get to. I'm sure next week it'll feel crazier.
Absolutely.
One of our customers has flown all of their members out to Italy to do like a bread class. They were on a product that just randomly canceled all of their subscription. They didn't know what to do. It's like the engineering of subscription mechanics. That's kind of what Memberful is doing. We're doing the hard stuff for you so that you don't have to deal with that headache and you can focus on the pieces that are going to help move your business forward. The control is more in the creator's hands. The control is more in these maybe smaller media companies' hands.
Hi there, I'm Ben May from The Code Company. I'm here with Jen Matichuk from Memberful. Today we are talking subscriptions, memberships, the creator economy, and where Memberful sits in the stack. I hope you enjoy our discussion. What do you think has been driving the creation of these subscriptions with all these sort of new businesses? Is it been a growth of the creator economy side of things or brands that pivoting, diversifying revenue and things like that? What are you sort of seeing from a growth in subscriptions side?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think that when you're thinking about memberships as a whole and subscriptions as a whole, they've been around for a long time. You know, the New York Times has been delivering newspapers and musicians have had fan clubs. And so COVID hit and people became more online. And as people are still becoming more and more online, the digital subscriptions really shot up. And because those digital subscriptions really shot up and more people were online, it's creating those communities within that. And so all of these brands and creators are seeing that there is an opportunity to build something with that. It's recurring revenue. It's something that's consistent. It's not just you purchase this and then you have to go sell it again. You're buying somebody and you're buying their lifetime value when they're coming in. Brands are seeing that. They're hopping in. They're excited about it and they want to create more value. Some are doing it right. Some are not doing it right. And then audiences are staying online. They're excited. They're ready to be a part of these subscriptions because that's kind of where the world is. We're chronically online at this point.
Now we have so many different shapes and sizes of what a media company even is.
Yeah.
Creators have added to that to make it even more hard to define what it is and is not. What's the common link at who's being successful, I guess, in creating these memberships and creating sort of a more sustainable revenue pathway for their business?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different versions of success when it comes to that. New York Times has diversified in that it has a whole games section that people are pretty obsessed with, and more companies have copied that. And then they also have a cooking section. And, that kind of emulates what's been going on with individual creators that are doing well with their individual cooking subscriptions. So I think that success can be varied across verticals, and we can't really define it to one specific place. But like you said, media company is a blanket term at this point.
Yeah.
It can mean a lot of different things. We can have a podcast network that's a media company. We can have a YouTuber that's a media company. We can have a newspaper that's a media company. What does that mean at this point, and how can you further define it?
Have you seen, I guess, in your work and the brands you work with, beyond just straight up paywalls, that sort of idea of bundling other things into a subscription to make it sort of more robust?
Yeah, I've definitely seen aspects of that, and I think it can work in some ways, as long as the bundle feels adjacent to what the audience is already consuming or is already part of. If you're trying to bundle something that feels completely different from what they
just throwing things in.
Yeah, or you're like trying to do a brand partnership that doesn't align with your audience and how they want to consume content or what they want to consume, then you're not making the right choices there. But I do think that bundling can be great for what you're doing. And I think, again, there's a lot of different ways of being successful with bundling, even within your own product or with outside products as well.
Yeah. Paint us a picture of the sort of businesses that come to Memberful and the type of businesses that sort of thrive when they come to Memberful. What are the pain points they're experiencing? What are they looking for to grow? Who are they? What's the sort of background story that we see most often coming to Memberful?
Yeah, so Memberful services a variety of folks. And we've talked about this a little bit before, but it can range anywhere from a food creator to a full-on publishing company and anything in between, like a podcast network or a video creator that's really popular on YouTube. But the people that we see that come to us that are going to do the best or be the most successful are the ones that are coming with a knowledge of their audience and what their audience might want, and that their audience is ready to pay for something. And also the understanding that they want to be flexible in how they're offering that. They can't just come in being like, we have to offer this in this way. They want to come in and be like, we're going to test this and we're going to iterate on it. And so those folks are often the most successful because they come in with a product that feels right for their audience, and they're willing to adapt and grow as their audience grows and changes, and as their business grows and changes too.
Yeah, so we saw again in COVID a lot of these digital subscription businesses starting up. As those businesses sort of mature and graduate from maybe where they started from, what's the sort of business background that they're looking to move, I guess? What are they trying to solve or have more access to solve that maybe they were stuck with before, or sort of had to live within a constraint of a platform or some other product? That a tool like Memberful, where does that sort of help unlock for them?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they're testing the waters of membership, they're going to go to something that feels easy to get started on. And I think that that's great. And I think it's a good place to test things out and to find your product fit and figure out what makes the most sense for you, because it is an easy way in. But as your business might become bigger and maybe more of your revenue pie, that is when you need to start evaluating, am I best suited on this platform that I am having some pains with in terms of growing, or I want to integrate this and I can't? And that's where, moving or migrating to a tool that's a little bit more flexible and allows you to kind of build your own tech stack, like Memberful, is able to help you out.
If you aren't familiar with Memberful, how would you describe what Memberful is in sort of the broad ecosystem of digital tools and platforms?
So we are a white label product that allows you to sell memberships to your audience on your own site in your own way and build your own tech stack alongside it.
It's funny, I did a talk at a WordPress event a long time ago, it would be maybe 10 years ago now, and it was talking about the types of building digital subscriptions back then. And we went through sort of, you've got the enterprise offerings, you have the ability to sort of build your own, particularly in things like WordPress, you've got plugins and such.
Yeah.
You've also got then sort of this half-half situation of integrating payment processes and just sort of a bit of duct tape and coat hangers, and all of a sudden you've got a subscription, but then you find yourself having to add one more feature, and then all of a sudden 5 years later you've just got a Frankenstein. And the point I sort of made back then with the final option is sort of using a SaaS product, because if you're running a billing engine and a subscription engine on your own platform, you're now having to manage like that elastic compute, meaning if you have like 200 people who renew on the 1st of this month, your infrastructure needs to be smart enough and your software needs to be smart enough. And it's one of those ones that's very easy to just a tool to charge and collect revenue. And that's where, when we've worked with Memberful and recommended for our clients as well, that you've got that problem. It's a bit like sort of using Shopify for e-commerce. It's sort of, it's in someone else's cloud and someone else's problem. So you can focus on building the tech and the product around that is sort of unique to what you're trying to do and build on your business, rather than having to figure out the engineering of subscription mechanics and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. You said it. It's like the engineering of subscription mechanics. That's kind of what Memberful is doing. We're doing the hard stuff for you so that you don't have to deal with that headache, and you can focus on the pieces that are going to help move your business forward, like figuring out the ESP that works best for you and plugging that directly in, or, building the actual content that you're going to be going to market with. It's just making things a little bit easier and still allowing you to plug in the tools that you want to use.
How do you like to sort of position Memberful when you're evaluating the different products, different sort of architectures or whatever term, when you are trying to plug all these things in, understanding, should I build this, should I borrow that, should I move everything to one place? What's the sort of strength for Memberful when brands are evaluating?
There are a few different ways that you can evaluate that. And like I said before, I think all-in-one options can be great for some businesses and really detrimental for other businesses. Memberful is, it has aspects of all-in-one, but ultimately it's not an all-in-one platform. We call it decentralized. And then there's, on the far end of the spectrum, the like Recurly or the Chargebee or the Piano that are very expensive in some ways, whether that's with time or with money. And that gives you like full control. We're kind of a little bit in the middle where you have a lot of control with us and you can do a lot of the things that you want to do, but it's still easy to use. We want to be a more simple way to build something that feels very robust for when you're building your media company.
What does it actually mean to sort of be locked in on a particular platform? And by locked in, no one's ever truly locked in, but there is lock-in regardless of how you look at it, whether that's the ease of portability to another platform or ease of changing a subscription or a payment engine or all those sorts of things. Like everything is a series of trade-offs. What sort of, other than email, you touched on sort of platforms are you able to plug in and out of with Memberful? What are the other things in the ecosystem you see most commonly with brands and creators? I guess the demand is rising for even more flexibility of how do you build a subscription? What sort of things can you offer, experiment with, etc.? What's sort of in the roadmap for Memberful at the moment in the near future of things you're looking to sort of, invest in, release?
I mean, we have a few different buckets that we focus on when we're building the product and thinking about what we want to build with the product. Obviously there's like the core features of keeping Memberful up to date and working well. But then in terms of expanding the product itself, we have a WordPress bucket. And we also have more of like an integrations bucket, which we talked about, and then our own internal hosted site feature bucket. So those are kind of the focuses. And within those buckets, there are a number of things that we're working on. WordPress specifically, we're really excited about a couple of things that are being built out right now, one is metered paywall, which is obviously a huge thing with media companies. And another one is making the paywall customization a little bit easier and better and more plug and play within WordPress, and a multi-site option, which we're really excited about. So a bunch of different things just to make the WordPress experience better.
What excites you, I guess, about the WordPress world? That's something obviously we live in, and excited to see that sort of investment in those sort of plugins that make our job easier as well.
Yeah, I think that WordPress can be a really good solution for a lot of different folks, whether they're an individual creator or somebody who has a full-blown company. Not saying an individual creator does not. There's a lot of different website builders now. And so it's like, well, where does WordPress fit in? And is it the buzzy word of building a website right now? In some ways it's not, because the WordPress user interface has not really changed much. And I think that the visuals can often hinder the use of WordPress, whereas you get other like Webflow, or people are talking about Webflow and they're like, oh, it's beautiful to put together. Webflow has been around, but WordPress has really been around.
Right.
And WordPress is not going to leave. And most sites in the world are on WordPress and are running on WordPress and are probably not going to leave WordPress. So it makes sense to continue to invest in what we started on and also what is going to continue to be.
And WordPress's strength in that situation, being open source, is that as an external provider building a plugin and integration with WordPress, you can actually tap in at all those levels for paywalls and metered paywalls and user management and things like that, where other CMSs and platforms may not give you the ability to build that level of stuff. So you're able to build a truly white label product. Jumping to the brands that are doing well, what's the sort of most ambitious or creative sort of stuff you've seen in people building subscription products, like you said, podcasts and video and things like that? What's been sort of interesting to you watching so many of your customers and people in market experiment and build out digital subscriptions and creator stuff?
Yeah, there's a wide range of people doing interesting things with subscriptions. And I always think that the most interesting way to use subscriptions or memberships is to focus on the people that are really, really big supporters and do interesting things with them and how they are interacting with your content. or what you put out in the world. And so I think a really big thing that we're really excited about seeing is when people take their content and put it into the real world. They put it into the live world. So whether that's a live event or, one of our customers has flown all of their members out to Italy to do like a bread class because they're based in sourdough. So there's a lot of different interesting ways that you can do things. There's the classics where you can have a live stream and get tons and tons of people on the live stream, or you can have ad-free podcasts, and that's great, but I like the unique things, which are also the hardest and heaviest lift. But I like the unique things when it comes to seeing what people are doing, because when somebody's signing up for that unique thing, you're showing your superpower as a brand, as a creator, and what you can build with somebody, and that can really grow and that can influence a lot of other creators as well.
What sort of energizes you and excites you about this industry and where people are going to, and these brands that are sort of hitting that maturity level now? Some of them are 5 years in now to their journey, or maybe 3 years if they're a bit newer, because you obviously get to work sort of really closely with a lot of these creators and things like that as they're building and scaling their businesses.
What excites me is that they're building independence, and it's not just like where you might have had to have somebody give you money before and then you're beholden to them. You can now create that yourself, and you are also creating a space for the people who want to support what you're doing and also to consume what you're doing on a deeper level or a more in-depth level, whatever. So I think that's the really exciting part, is that the control is more in the creator's hands. The control is more in these maybe smaller media companies' hands, whereas before it was in these big conglomerates. And maybe it still is to some extent, but it's more and more being spread out. And you're seeing it in traditional Hollywood too, where more and more creators are getting the opportunity to build something that can show up on a large scale. So that's the really exciting part for me of just being in the creator economy for the last 13 years, is seeing it finally show up and have more control and, just be a part of the world where you're not just sitting below like, oh, they're a creator. It's like, no, they're a creator and they are crushing it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of lessons to learn, I think, from this sort of new media, which is, I guess, anything that's not old media, as these businesses are growing and like rewriting the playbook and how all of that's changing. We've been talking for like 20, 30 minutes and haven't mentioned AI yet. How is that, do you think, affecting, because obviously part of what we're seeing with AI consuming the web and cannibalizing, I guess, knowledge, information, things like that, is forcing a lot of people to close the their web properties down. They're trying to collect and save their IP.
Yeah.
Arguably, whether that's worth it or not, or and in Australia, we're dealing with it at the moment from a copyright perspective. US is probably slightly different posture to copyright protection right now. It's as a lot of this AI is growing and things like that. But how have people been chatting to you? Like, are they worried about it? Are they thinking that their work is all going to be stolen and hoovered up? How do you hedge against AI? I guess traditional, some people just call like, in lazy terms, the open web, meaning websites with page views and ads, is definitely in structural decline. And membership is obviously one of those things to hedge against it.
Yeah, I think it's just a different way of doing things. I do also think that where AI is right now, maybe it's the peak. I don't know. No one knows. Where AI is right now feels like the craziest that it could possibly get to. I'm sure next week it'll feel crazier. But when I'm talking to clients about their use of AI or like how they're hedging against AI, it's often not a huge concern at this moment. And I think that might be partially naivety and partially they have too much going on to think about something crawling their content. But at the same time, your content has been available online forever. And if you don't have a paywall in front of it, somebody else could have taken it. It's just being taken more regularly now and spit out by these LLMs. And, it's just at a more rapid pace at this point. So if you were concerned about it before, you're extremely concerned about it now.
Absolutely.
But if you weren't thinking about it before, you're just like kind of thinking about it now.
What's the sort of step people are feeling when they usually sort of knock on your door and say, we're having trouble with X? Have they been scaling? Are they starting out new? Where is a sort of creator business in the evolution of their business growth when they're like, it's a good time to start talking to Memberful?
It varies. That's my answer to a lot of questions. But we do see a lot of migrations with folks coming over to Memberful. And I think the main reason is that they realize when they're on another platform or building it themselves, they kind of realize what they really want or really don't want. And Memberful often ticks a lot of those boxes for folks. And so that's when they're coming to us. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier. Or, oh my gosh, it's more flexible or anything like that. So we do see a lot of migrations where people are hitting points where they feel like they are doing too much because they have some old dinosaur sort of platform that they've been using, or they feel constrained by an all-in-one platform that is just not letting them plug into the things they want to plug in or get the data that they want to get. So migrations is a really big thing for Memberful. But outside of that, if people are coming to Memberful to just start a membership business, it really varies, but it's tough. Like the inbound folks really vary across the board. So I might have to think about that one.
Yeah.
Come back to
What
you.
about horror stories? I know from our experience, we've definitely seen, the sorts of things happening where, especially when you've tried to build your own subscription engine, because again, it's just a Stripe API. How hard could it be? Have you got any that come to mind of sort of those horror stories of, especially like you said, on migrations where someone is in another ecosystem for whatever reason they're coming across? Or
Yeah, we had one recently, and I'm not going to name names, but they were on a product that just randomly canceled all of their subscriptions. And they didn't know what to do. And so we had an emergency demo where they reached out and we were like, all right, let's figure this out. Why did this happen? They're like, we need to leave this product immediately because, we reached out to them and they can't tell us what happened or why it happened. And so that's one piece of the story. And again, that was on a managed product. Imagine if they were, just running their own Stripe billing, which, like you said, you're managing all of the actual billing infrastructure within Stripe, but then you have to manage the access of everything too.
Or the freelancer just disappears, or the agency goes out of business, or the person you hired to build it, or worse now, vibe coded a solution who vibe coded something in a couple of weeks and now they're no longer here, and it's like, who picks up that bit of work?
Yeah, and the vibe coding is prone to security threats.
What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, exactly. Just have your finance manager whip up a new billing system and hook into production, and off we go.
That is scary to think about. We haven't had anybody come to us where they're just like, yeah, everything fell apart and that means we need to go with you. But we've had people be like, we have gone through some hardships with what we're doing and it has been terrible. And this seems so much easier. And you're dealing with the hard stuff that we don't want to think about. Because often, when those people are coming to us, they have been through it. So they understand. And when we're talking to people that haven't yet built a membership and they're thinking about what they want to do, maybe building on Stripe by itself feels really great.
Yeah, really efficient. Yeah.
It's just like, wow. And we don't have to pay any other extra
Cut out the middleman, yeah.
And we maintain it ourselves. And I'm like, well, just wait. The grass is always greener.
Yeah.
We're maintaining all of that hard stuff. And you don't even understand how hard that piece is, I guess, until you go do it. So go do it and come back to us.
Yeah.
And let's talk.
I guess to sort of wrap up today, what are you excited about for the future of media? Where do you think things are going in terms of, the sort of this breaking up of traditional media, new media, creator-led businesses? What sort of motivates you, excites you about sort of the whole industry as itself?
I've worked in the creator economy for 13 years now, and I first started on the creator side, working with Rhett and Link. And so I feel very close to that side of things, and I feel very excited that these businesses are now being seen as actual true businesses. And I think that's even going to get more and more prevalent as we keep going. And that's what I'm excited about, is the total ownership that folks are allowed to have in this world, and the creator economy being seen as a real economy that's not, rungs and rungs and rungs below other, traditional media or, Hollywood. It being in and of its own self is very exciting. I'm really excited to be a part of it and to help build that side of things. So that's what I'm excited about.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining me today. It's been great to chat, and we can find you online at memberful.com and anywhere else.
Thanks so much, Ben.